3 a.m. The knock came suddenly. 3 slow, heavy taps echoed through the small apartment, breaking the silence like something trying to force its way into reality. Arjun woke up instantly. His eyes opened in darkness, and for a few seconds he couldn't understand what had pulled him out of sleep. Then the sound repeated again. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate. The room was dark except for faint streetlight leaking through the curtains. The ceiling fan rotated lazily, making a soft ticking sound as if counting seconds. Arjun stayed still, listening carefully. The knock came again, this time louder. His heartbeat began to rise. Arjun lived alone in a rented apartment on the 4th floor of an old building. The building itself stood at the edge of the city, surrounded by half-constructed houses and empty plots. Most apartments were vacant and only a few lights turned on at night. No one usually visited him, and definitely not at 3 a.m. Arjun slowly sat up on his bed. His phone screen lit up as he checked the time again. 3:02 a.m. The knock stopped. For a moment, silence filled the apartment again, but the silence didn't feel normal anymore. It felt heavy, like something was waiting. Arjun carefully got up and stepped onto the cold floor. The tiles felt unusually cold under his feet. He walked slowly toward the main door, his breathing becoming shallow. Halfway to the door, he stopped. Something felt wrong. The hallway light outside the apartment, which usually glowed faintly through the bottom gap of the door, was completely dark tonight. That never happened. Arjun stood still, staring at the door. Then, suddenly, 3 knocks again, this time softer, almost gentle. His throat dried instantly. He leaned forward and slowly looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, completely empty. The dim emergency light at the far end flickered weakly, revealing the long corridor stretching into darkness. No movement, no shadow, no sound. There was no one outside. Arjun pulled back slowly. His heart was now beating loudly in his ears. He stepped away from the door and returned to his bed, trying to calm himself. Maybe someone knocked on the wrong door. Maybe someone had already left. He lay down again. But sleep didn't return. The silence felt too loud. 3 minutes passed. Then, knock. This time, from inside the apartment. Arjun's eyes widened instantly. The sound came from the kitchen. 3 taps, slow, deliberate. He slowly turned his head toward the kitchen entrance. Darkness filled the space. The refrigerator hummed faintly. Nothing moved. He told himself it could be something falling or pipes making noise, but deep inside he knew it wasn't normal. He stayed still, listening carefully. The knocking didn't repeat. Minutes passed. Then his phone suddenly vibrated beside him. Arjun picked it up quickly. A notification, an unknown number. No message, just a missed call at 3:11 a.m. Arjun stared at the number. It looked unfamiliar. Suddenly, his phone vibrated again. Another call. The same number. Arjun hesitated for a second, then answered. Silence. No breathing, no sound, just faint static. After a few seconds, the call disconnected. At that exact moment, 3 knocks again from the main door. Arjun felt a chill run down his spine. This time, he didn't move. He just stared at the door from his bed. The knocking stopped, but something else began. Slow footsteps outside the door, walking slowly, dragging slightly. Arjun's breathing stopped. The footsteps paused right outside his door. Then, silence. The hallway remained quiet again. After a few minutes, Arjun finally gathered courage and walked toward the door once more. He looked through the peephole. Nothing. But this time, something else caught his attention. A faint wet mark on the floor outside, like someone had stood there with wet feet. The mark slowly faded into darkness down the hallway. Arjun stepped back immediately. Something was definitely wrong. He locked the door again carefully and returned to his bed. He kept the lights off, pretending to sleep. Minutes passed slowly. Then, suddenly, the bedroom door creaked slightly. Arjun froze. The door slowly opened on its own. A faint cold breeze entered the room. The temperature dropped noticeably. Arjun's eyes remained half closed, but he could sense something entering the room. The air felt heavier. Then the bed dipped slightly, as if someone sat at the edge. Arjun's heart nearly stopped. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. Seconds stretched endlessly. Then the weight slowly lifted. The bed returned to normal. Footsteps moved away. The bedroom door slowly closed again. Silence returned. Arjun finally opened his eyes. Nothing. The room looked empty, but something had changed. His phone screen lit up again. Another notification. An unknown number. This time, a message. Just 3 words. Open the door. Arjun's hands began to shake. He stared at the message. Then another message arrived. I'm still outside. Arjun slowly turned his head toward the main door. The hallway light suddenly flickered through the bottom gap. 3 knocks again, louder than before. Arjun felt completely frozen. He didn't move. He just stared at the door from his bed. The knocking stopped, but something else began. Immense pressure against the door, as if something was trying to force its way in. Then, silence. Exhausted, Arjun eventually drifted into an uneasy sleep. Morning sunlight entered the room slowly. Arjun woke up around 9 a.m. Everything looked normal. He walked toward the door carefully and opened it. The hallway was empty, but something lay outside, a small envelope. Arjun picked it up slowly. Inside was a single photograph. It showed the apartment building taken from outside at night, but something else was visible. The 4th floor window, his window, and inside, a silhouette standing behind him. Arjun's face went pale. He looked at the timestamp printed on the photo, 3:03 a.m., the exact time when the knocking began. Arjun slowly looked back at his apartment. The room felt colder again. Then his phone vibrated one last time. Unknown number. Final message. I'm inside now. At that exact moment, 3 knocks echoed again. This time from inside the wardrobe.